Hey there, focused learners, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer, because, well, we're doing something incredibly ambitious today. We are literally going to try and reverse engineer the universe. I know, big task, right? But we're going to look at ancient texts, etymology, and some really profound philosophical frameworks to figure out how ancient thinkers conceptualize the very fabric of existence. Basically, we're exploring how everything around us is built, and more importantly, where the heck it all came from in the first place. It really is the ultimate question, isn't it? Where did the universe begin? Now, if you were to gather the greatest philosophers, the most revered ancient texts, and, the foundational myths from cultures all over the globe, and put them all in one giant room, you'd probably expect a pretty chaotic debate. I mean, human cultures are just so incredibly diverse. But what if I told you that when you strip away all those specific cultural details, a lot of these major world philosophies actually share a single, absolutely remarkable consensus about the origin of everything? And this table here brilliantly illustrates that shared consensus. Take a look at this timeline of thought. You've got Thales, the father of Western philosophy over in ancient Greece, saying that water is the fundamental substance of all matter. Then, jump over to the Judeo-Christian book of Genesis, which literally describes the spirit hovering over the deep waters. And then you look at Eastern philosophies and Taoism, and they say the exact same thing. It's wild. Despite vast geographical and temporal distances, they all point to one single fundamental element: water. Okay, moving on to section 1, the cosmic house. Okay, let's dive right into this. To understand why water is so central, we first kind of need to understand how ancient Eastern philosophy viewed the structure of the universe itself. In Eastern thought, the universe isn't just some random, empty void. It's actually conceptualized as a structure, specifically, a house. In fact, the ancient characters used for the universe, Uju, literally translate to house. Now, think about a human house for a second. To create a family and bring forth life, you traditionally need the union of male and female, that fundamental balance of yin and yang. Well, the ancient philosophers argued that the macrocosm is really no different from the microcosm. The universe, this great house, requires that exact same cosmic balance of yin and yang to function, to harmonize, and to actually generate life. And because the universe is viewed as this single giant house, everything inside of it is inherently related. There's this beautiful concept known as Dangi. Roughly translated, it means sharing the same energy or being of the same breath. It essentially suggests that all things in the universe are like one massive family sharing energy from a single maternal source. So we aren't just isolated objects floating around in space, we are deeply connected siblings, and we all originate from the exact same cosmic mother.
All right, section 2, Tail the Great First.
So if we're all branching out from the exact same family tree, let's trace that tree all the way back down to its roots. Let's transition backwards from the incredibly complex, divided universe we see today back to its original, primeval building block. And this brings us to the concept of Tael. Translated, this means the Great First, or the Great One. See, before there was any division, before there was up or down, light or dark, male or female, yin or yang, there was just Tael. It's this primeval unity where all pure cosmic energy, which is often called Wangi, resides completely merged as one. It is literally the ultimate seed of existence. The philosophical process of creation is, when you get down to it, essentially a mathematical division of this great first. It's like a giant puzzle. It starts with Tail, the one source. That source then divides into two, yin and yang. Then those two interact, create four, which are known as the four symbols. Those four divide into the 8 trigrams, and this process of division just multiplies outward infinitely. That is, until you have the tens of thousands of unique things that make up our complex reality today. So literally everything you see around you is just a fragmented piece of that original, undivided one. Next up, section 3, water as the ultimate source. Now you might be wondering, how does this abstract mathematical and philosophical concept of Tail connect back to our main thematic thread? Let's bring it all back to water. In traditional Eastern systems, like the 5 elements and the zodiac, every single element is assigned a number, and water is consistently represented by the number 1. It's the absolute beginning, it aligns perfectly with Tail, the great first. Before there was fire or earth or metal or wood, there was water. Now, what's incredibly fascinating here is how ancient language actually grounds this abstract cosmic idea in biological reality. Think about human birth for a second. Life grows in amniotic fluid. Well, in Korean, the word for amniotic fluid is yangsu. It's made up of two characters, Yang meaning sheep and Su meaning water. Now, why a sheep? Well, in the traditional zodiac, the sheep represents a very specific time of deep nourishment and the nurturing of energy. So this biological water isn't just, liquid. It's etymologically recognized as the cosmic energy nurturing water that literally brings forth life.
And all of this leads us to a really profound core thesis for this explainer. The universe starts with water and ends with water. Just think about it. Just as every single human life originates from a tiny drop of fluid in the womb, and just as the mighty Han River or the massive Yellow River can be traced all the way back to a tiny single cup's worth of water just bubbling up from a mountain spring, the entire sprawling cosmos stems from a single foundational state of water energy.
Which brings us to Section 4, Creation versus Gabyok. But how does this watery universe actually operate over time? Let's shift gears for a minute and contrast how different cultures view the life cycle of this cosmic house. Generally speaking, in Western frameworks, we often think of creation as a linear event, right? There's a definite beginning, like a one-time opening of a door, or, scientifically speaking, the Big Bang. And then there's a definitive end. However, Eastern philosophy offers a completely different perspective, a concept called Gabyok. Gabyok is cyclical. It represents a continuous opening and closing. It's almost like a breathing mechanism for the universe, like a big bang followed eventually by a big crunch, only to bang all over again. And if we break down the ancient characters for Gabyok, both characters actually relate to the idea of opening doors. But inherently in this philosophy, a door that opens must eventually close. The universe isn't just a static painting that was created once and left alone. It's a dynamic, rotating, cyclical engine of water and energy that opens into existence, expands, and then eventually contracts, all the way back to its primeval state to rest before beginning anew. What is just endlessly fascinating to me is how universal this vision of a primeval starting point really is. When we look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, it describes the state of the world before light and form were ever brought into existence. It says darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit hovered over the waters. So whether you are reading ancient Eastern texts about the dark, profound depths of Ta'il, or Western texts about the formless deep, humanity has collectively intuited that the blank canvas of the universe is a boundless, dark, aquatic state. It's mind-blowing. And finally, Section 5, Living like Water. It's incredible to contemplate the grand cosmos, for sure, but let's bring this philosophical journey back down to the present day. How do we actually apply this cosmic knowledge to our own lives? Well, cultivating your path in life, which is often called practicing the Tao, can be compared to a journey upstream. The easy thing to do, obviously, is just to let the current of worldly distractions, conflicts, and base desires sweep you downstream. But to find truth, to actually find the source, you have to swim against that current. It requires immense, continuous effort to resist the easy flow of the world and actively seek out your original, pristine beginnings. But how should you act while making that journey? Well, the ancient philosopher Laozi famously said, "The highest good is like water." Just think about the nature of water for a second. It flows downward to the lowest places that people despise. It yields to obstacles, naturally flowing around rocks rather than fighting them. Yet in its gentle yielding, it nourishes every single living thing it touches. It gives life entirely without demanding recognition. So, the absolutely crucial point here is this. To mimic water is to practice the truest nature of the universe. In Eastern philosophy, this ultimate cosmic virtue is called Ren, which translates to benevolence or profound humaneness. If the universe is built on a foundation of water, then acting like water, being humble, yielding, and nourishing to others, isn't just some nice moral guideline. It actually means you are physically and spiritually aligning yourself with the very source code of the cosmos. And wow, that brings us to the end of our journey today. We've traced existence all the way from the grand cosmic house down to a single drop of water. But the real work is what happens when you step away from this explainer. If the universe's ultimate power lies in the humble, life-giving nature of water, how can you adopt that yielding, nourishing flow in your own daily life? I'll leave you to ponder that one. Thank you so much for exploring the source with me today. And as always, keep learning.